Welcome to the Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. I'm Cari Wurzbacher, co-chair of the WINiT Education Committee, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Research says 80% of all women struggle with confidence, and in even greater numbers the higher you go in a company. This translates into fewer women rising through the ranks and reaching their greatest potential in the workplace. How can we be and support bolder risk takers, yet avoid the double bind of being labeled too aggressive, too assertive? Is it just a lack of confidence or confidence misconstrued? Are we as women ready to take the risk, make the ask, share our accomplishments, and apply for that promotion? Are we ready to be as bold, if not bolder, than our male counterparts? That's what Cari Brown will challenge us to do today, sharing her WINiT wisdom, rising above the double bind. Cari Brown is the Vice President of Brand and Resort Strategy at Steamboat Ski Resort and one of the few women who have trailblazed the way up the ranks of the ski industry. A true advocate for women in leadership, she founded the Women's Plus Network at Steamboat Resort and the Sisters Symposium to elevate women in the wider outdoor and ski industry. So join us today for a Black Diamond discussion on curbing the confidence crisis and taking strategic yet bold moves to elevate your career. Cari, thank you so much for joining us today during such a busy season.
Thank you, Cari. I am so excited and honored to be here.
Well, thank you again. And to kind of start us off today and to set the stage for our listeners, what is the double bind phenomenon?
First of all, I really love that you kind of associated this with the black double diamond because this conversation is really hard and it's kind of a double all in. And the double bind it forces women to navigate conflicting expectations. You're almost in a no-win situation. You know, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. For example, if you're too assertive, you're being viewed as aggressive or really unlikable, or, we all know the witchy type word that comes out. Or on the other hand, if you're too sensitive and you care too much, you know what? You're too weak. So how do we find that line to be able to do both and still be productive? It's a big challenge, and it's a dilemma that many men in similar positions certainly do not face.
That is so true. And I constantly myself have that moment of, am I being too assertive, where I back my thinking that maybe I need to be a little bit calmer in my voice and how I present myself. So I'm ready and on board to join the slopes with you on this discussion. And so how does the double bind affect women's day-to-day experiences and leadership roles? And how has it impacted your own career?
Oh, great questions. The double bind really does force women in leadership to navigate conflicting expectations. And quite honestly, it's a little exhausting. Let me give a couple examples. Confidence. You mentioned it earlier, confidence, what it can do. Confidence can come off as arrogance, but humility can look as weak. So let's think about that. I'll give you an example. I recently had an interview and I received feedback afterwards that I lacked confidence. Well, anyone who knows me knows my nickname is Red Hot Brown, and the one thing I do not lack is confidence. So when I was in this interview, I realized my personality, even though it's Red Hot Brown and confident, is fairly humble. And I realized that being too humble came across as not being confident, and I didn't quite know what to do with that, because I feel like the opposite of that is self-serving and self-promoting and just selfish. But for this particular situation, it looks like that might be what they were looking for more, is to really get in there and say you can do it and make it happen. So it's that fine line. But I really appreciated that I did receive some feedback, because it made me think a little bit about this and how to approach it. And ironically, I think you saw my LinkedIn post about this, about a smile. For that interview beforehand, I spoke with a recruiter. And the recruiter was great, and we were going through all kinds of different situations. And he, at one point, said, I'm going to interview you next week, or you'll be interviewed. And I said, sounds great. And I said, what can I bring? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to prepare? And he said, just bring your great smile. Well, that really did not make me too happy. It was just diminished basically all the work I've done and anything over the years, that you're asking me just to bring my smile. And I'm convinced that he might not have said that to a guy or someone else in an interview. So he meant well, and I think he really thought it was flattering, but honestly, I didn't take it that way. So that's just another example of how you're kind of, again, in that double bind.
And, I know I'm still, earlier in my career, I have, already, I've been told, well, you wear your emotions on your face. And I'm always wondering, like, do my male counterparts get the same kind of feedback that, I need to be concerned about how I present myself? And, if I might disagree with where we might be taking something. And like, how do you navigate that? Because, you want to assert yourself, but yet, I feel like we still have a little bit of that stigma of like, oh, well, you need to be likable. You need to make sure that you always are the one that's the cheerleader that is always going to be positive, even when you disagree with maybe what's happening right in front of you.
Well, man, I can totally relate to your experiences. I mean, over the years, I've had many different and similar experiences. I've been told I can't laugh at work. It actually went on one of my reviews once. I can't show emotion. I can't talk to someone directly, and I can't be a parent and be successful at the same time. And this is over the years, but it is, again, exhausting. And navigating these issues, the best way I think it is you really need to work with the person across the table, know who they are, and it's a lot about relationships and being able to have that conversation so that they understand where you're coming from. And sometimes that makes it a lot easier on both sides to realize where you're coming from.
I love that. Thank you. And I know you mentioned LinkedIn, and I love your LinkedIn posts and really how authentic you are. And for all of our listeners, definitely take a moment and follow Katie Brown. You shared a story recently about how you gave yourself grace versus having that need to quote prove yourself, like women often feel from the slopes to the boardroom. Can you share more about that experience?
Oh, yes, I would be happy to. I think this is kind of a fun one. Well, now that it's over, when it was happening, I didn't find it fun at all. But I don't know. Have you ever felt that you don't show up in a certain way and you're going to be considered, and if you don't show up, you're going to be considered weak? Sometimes examples might be going golfing after work, or getting whiskey at the bar with the guys. I mean, these are just different examples where you might not be able to be there. And so you feel like you're weak. I'm sure you've experienced something similar.
Much golf. I'm not a
Golf.
golfer. I don't like golf. Nor do I want to learn to play golf.
Well, there you go. So, but you do feel that pressure sometimes too.
Yes,
I remember my father saying to me,
absolutely. When can we add another activity at some of these sales conferences? It'd be fantastic.
I know exactly. And like I was saying, my father told me one of the best things I could do in business is to go learn golf. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyway, I did, but I'm not that great, but it's an example. But the example I have is more on the slopes, obviously, here at the ski area. And our senior team, at the beginning of the season, thought it'd be really fun, and it would be really fun as a team building experience for us all to ski around the mountain, say hi to everybody, get to know them, see the facilities, see what's going on. And it does. It sounds like a blast. I mean, what a dream job, right? So even after 20 years of skiing, I, at this point, just don't like certain conditions. I'll be honest with you. I call myself a princess skier because I like blue skies, perfectly groomed runs, and not cloudy, and certainly not when it's dumping snow and there's no visibility and I can get vertigo. To be honest, it just completely freaks me out and I freeze. So I saw the weather report on the day that we were going to be doing this event. And the night before, I was a complete basket case. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. I don't, I'll probably just freeze on the slopes. They're all going to think I'm crazy, But the reason why I felt that way is because we're really in this male dominated industry, and only a few of the women are in the boardroom. So I felt the need to prove myself, like I can do this. And I was beating myself up. I mean, I had so much angst, I couldn't sleep. And then I was writing in my journal and I saw an affirmation that said, choose grace over grit. Boy, did that resonate with me. Trust me, I have plenty of grit, probably too much sometimes. But the grace was like, yeah, give yourself some grace. It's okay. I mean, it was a total wake up call that I could do this and it's going to be fine. Most likely, the guys don't even care. Let's be honest, they're probably more concerned about themselves and how they're going to look on the slopes. So I called my boss and I said, hey, I'm really not interested in this event. I know it's team building, but it's kind of freaking me out. And he was very cool about it. He's like, no problem. I've got you, which is really reassuring that he said that. But I was still kind of conflicted. Now I feel like, what a loser. I'm not going. I went back to that quote and I said, give yourself grace. And when I gave myself that grace, I felt like a superhero. I was like, I did it. I stood up and I stood up for myself and I had a boundary. And it gave me way more strength just thinking about that. So later in the afternoon, we all have a meeting and it's a conference room and they're all walking in so excited. What a great day. Amazing powder, blah, blah. And now, of course, I have FOMO. I'm missing out. And they did say they missed me. But when I thought about what I was missing out on, again, I just answered back and I'm like, I'm glad you guys really enjoyed it. But out of grace for me, I didn't need to be using any kind of grit on those kind of crazy days. So you can call me a princess. And they all were very fun with it. We all had a great time. And quite honestly, after the meeting, a couple of the teammates actually came up to me and said, you made the right decision. I wish I did. So I was like, it's just amazing if you can just have that confidence and look out for yourself, how important that is.
Love that. And I'm going to go a little script. I didn't give you this question beforehand, and it's something that, you mentioned being a parent, and I'm in a life stage where I have a 4-year old. Both my husband and I work, and there's the constant balance act of trying to say yes to everything, be at every happy hour, be present. How do we kind of change kind of the mentality? Like it's okay, and again, give yourself grace that you don't need to be there for every single thing. They know you, they know your brand and what you can bring. But how do you get that FOMO and that like, oh man, did I make the right decision? Did I feel like you always are trying that constant balancing act.
Yeah, I totally get it. I have 2 kids also, and it's just constant. And what do you do? Because you really do feel like you're going to be missing out and you're going to miss out on these relationships and they're not going to know who you are. I mean, there's just so many stories we make in our own minds, right? But
Yes.
really, you're going to be better if you give yourself grace because your kids are most likely the priority and you're never going to regret that decision. And if it's going and picking up the kids instead of going to the bar, think about the opposite. You want to go to the bar with the guys and have some whiskey versus having your kids not get picked up, you know? So I think the more as women, especially, that we can step up and show who we are and not try to be like the guys. Be who you are, be authentic. You're going to be a stronger person because you found your priorities and you held to them. Set up those guardrails. You don't have to be one of the guys. And you don't want to be. That's what we bring to the table is a unique perspective. Keep with that. They don't need another guy at the table. They need us. They need us to be genuine and able to go balance with our family, all kinds of activities.
You know what? Well said. They do need us, and they're better for us when we're
Yeah.
there. So I love that. You're setting us up well for the next question. And so we made it clear we know that women in leadership face this phenomenon, and being expected to be both strong and assertive, yet warm and likable. Can you share a time when you really had to navigate this challenge and balance confidence with approachability, but to your point, maintaining your authenticity? You don't want to lose your authentic self through all this, but yet it is a balancing act again.
It is. And I feel like we probably deal with this on a daily basis. But I was thinking about one time when I really first started in my career and I was in sales. And within sales, I was selling lift ticket contracts to groups and to have them to come to the resort. And I went and visited one of my key contacts, who was a very prominent lawyer. And he lived in Wisconsin. So I flew up there and took him out to dinner along with his wife to really get to know each other more. And I realized, because on the phone, he was pretty rough. So I thought, oh, I got to get in and I got to figure out a relationship with this guy. So we went to dinner and it was lovely, but it was interesting. He was probably 6'2", 280. I'm 5'2". Talk about intimidating. I'm like, and I'm pretty much straight out of college. So I'm like, wow, okay, I can do this. And I'm trying to prove myself. I'm going to make this deal. I'm going to hit my numbers. I'm going to make this and have this contract come back. Like I said, he was a prominent lawyer and he knew how to negotiate. I mean, he was divorce attorney. So the man knew how to negotiate. And I would say, I don't know that I knew that as much, but we went back and forth and back and forth. And it was kind of fun at the end because we had the dinner the night before. We could kind of joke about it a little bit, but it was definitely intense. And at one point he goes, Katie, do you know what chutzpah is? And I'm like, kinda, tell me. And he's like, it's big energy and you have unfiltered audacity. And I'm like, what? And it's basically going for it. And I thought, I just lost the deal. I just lost it. I was being too red hot about it. I was too passionate. And he said, but because of your chutzpah and what you're doing here and how strong you believe in this, you got yourself a deal. So it was awesome. I was able to find that balance of being really tough and strong, but also having that relationship and being soft and still being authentic to myself. I was still red hot, still had a good friendship, and got the deal.
Absolutely love that. And I loved kind of how you talked about like being passionate. I think I've gotten that feedback. Like you have a lot of passion when you bring it to work and but maybe you need to tone it down sometimes. But that's who I am. And so I in anything I do, work in life, I will bring my passion. And you know what? I'm just gonna remind myself that's who I am and I'm better for it. And it's the love that I bring to the table. So
I couldn't agree more.
yes, yes. So, like in instances where you have to bounce back from failures or setbacks, that really will impact your confidence. Like, how can you really develop that resilience, though, to bounce back? We kind of talked about like this notion of having it all, or quite frankly, that really doesn't exist. But how do you bounce back?
You're so right about the whole having it all and setting that up for our standards. And I think we set ourselves up for failure when we start thinking that way, quite honestly. I think it's a myth and it leads to more exhaustion and guilt. So instead of chasing that perfection, increase your confidence. Redefine your success on your own terms and give yourself, again, grace in that progress. Recently, I heard a speaker and we were talking about this kind of topic. It seems to be a hot one right now. And she was suggesting to bounce back, especially when your confidence is low, shift your mindset and break it down into smaller chunks. Maybe all at once, maybe one at a time, but whatever works best for you. But if you can bring it down to smaller chunks, you can actually really impact your confidence. And she mentioned 3. And the first one was self. What kind of actions can you put into place for yourself? How do you advocate for yourself? How do you take actions that confirm your self-worth? How have you set your boundaries? Did you decide you're going to go do school pickup instead? How do you advocate for yourself as examples? Maybe work on that first. Say, okay, self, this is something I really need to be working through and be strong. Another one is social. What are your social interactions like? Who do you hang out with? Who do you network with? Are they the right networking people? Do they give you that confidence that you deserve? You really need to look at that and say, how am I on a social scale? And how is that going to help me along? Because we all know a good friend goes a long way in these types of situations. And then maybe focus on tasks specific. What skills can help you with your confidence? What kind of projects? For me, I've been working on public speaking, and as you can tell, I'm putting more posts out on LinkedIn. All of this is 100% out of my comfort zone, but I'm trying to work on that task to get that additional confidence and really bring that to the table. So if you can work on those, I think that really does help for when your confidence gets knocked down to get right back up.
You say it's outside your comfort zone about for doing this and like how you engage in the post on LinkedIn. It's just so surprising to me, but yet complements everything what we're talking about today. Because to me, you're natural. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything that whenever I see you post, I make the time to read and like see the level of engagement. And so I think it just kind of hones in on just how important these types of discussions matter. So thank you.
Thank you. And as you know, when you're reading those posts, know that it took a lot of time before I got there. Full on imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, I mean, put it all in there. But once I get it out there, it's been really interesting and fun because others are experiencing the same thing. And that's the coolest thing is we're getting the conversation going and we're supporting each other, men and women.
I love it. And I love how so much of your work really focuses on lifting other women up. You set out to build the Women's Plus network at Steamboat Resort and recently the Sister Symposium. Can you share more about these endeavors and how organizations, industry agnostic, can really create cultures that minimize this double bind impact for us?
You bet. I think it was 2019. Our chamber put together a Thrive conference, which is for women, and it was really pretty cool. And there were so many people in the company that wanted to go to it. So we got a large group and went to that conference, heard unbelievable speakers. And we all came back so motivated and energized and talking, and it just was such a unique, fun experience. Then I took a new role at a senior level, and I became the vice president of brand and resort strategy. And I realized at this senior level, you could probably use additional training specifically around executive presence, sitting at that board as one female on a team of 9. So that class through Cornell was awesome. It was unbelievable, the kind of examples. And again, it makes you feel like you're not the only one out there and everyone experiences it. So once I took that, we came back and I noticed that from that Thrive committee, all the people that were doing that, we decided, let's just go to lunch once a month and just have chats. Like, let's read books, let's do magazines, let's just chat. And so that was super fun. And what was really fun about it is one of the speakers at Thrive was mentioning some of the best ideas that come from these types of chats are if you are there with French fries and Chardonnay. And we're like, okay, we will be having French fries and Chardonnay events. So it was fun and it started getting way more traction. And so we had decided we needed to get a little bit more serious about this. And so we actually put together an org committee. We put together a mission and a vision. We've had monthly events. We had events every year, like I said, monthly, but then we wanted to fill in something really unique. So we did something called Sisters Symposium. And this was an opportunity to invite our mountain region, Colorado and Utah resorts to come to Steamboat. Let's get together. Let's ski a little bit. Let's get to meet each other and collaborate. And it was outstanding. It was so much fun. And then the next year, we were going to do it again, but we had some budget issues. So what we did is we brought in one speaker, and she did the art of badassery. For that one, we actually invited the community, which was fantastic, with us. So now we've got the community, we've got our team, we're in there hitting boards because it's kind of karate oriented, and we bonded like crazy, and it was fantastic. But I was a little bummed that we kind of had to stage that differently and only bring in one speaker. This year, we pushed hard and said, we want to do a sister symposium again. And we were getting a lot of support, which was wonderful. And of course, I said, and I'd like to invite anyone who's part of Alterra, which is 18 resorts. So that was a big ask to say, hey, we want anyone to come here and basically pay for them to send these people here. But it's super important. Well, I got total buy-in from the CEO. He said, absolutely. And so instead of me figuring out who's coming, I sent a note to all the presidents and we said, if you'd like for some of your team members to join, please do. We got over 100 people interested from around all of North America that are now coming to this event. And this event's going to be super fun. This one, we're calling it Slay to Play. And what we're realizing is we have such a unique opportunity being on the slopes and in this industry. Why are we not grasping that more? People thrive coming to these resorts and being together. We need to really monopolize on that. So the amount of interest for the women from the other resorts to have the opportunity to come here, get together. We'll have some yoga sessions. We're going to have phenomenal speakers. We're going to have some good food. And then we're going to take some of those concepts that we are going to learn from the conference and bring that to the slopes. How can we bring that confidence that we have on the slopes into the boardroom? And vice versa, because there's so many parallels, and it's kind of like the mountain as you started. There's so many parallels that we can do. So we are super excited that we have the ability to have everyone come in, and I'll let you know how it goes. Actually, I would love to have you join us because I think you'd be great to be a part of this group. I see the thirst is so much thirst for these kinds of events that I see this doing nothing but growing. And quite honestly, our mission through Sister Symposium was to provide resources, opportunities, and community for women to thrive both professionally and personally, and also be the most inclusive and empowering workplace in the ski industry. So nothing small about any of that, but we're going to do it. I feel it, and it's happening, and it's organic, and it's so cool, so empowering.
Well, I absolutely love that, and it's so much in line with what we are trying to accomplish here at with WINiT, and the symposium sounds very similar to some of the great work that WINiT does with the summit, and that actually leads us to our last question. I can't believe how fast this time has gone,
Me
and
either.
I crazy. And at last year's summit that we had, the GBTA WINiT Path to Gender Parity was shared. And it's really advocating for that 50-50 leadership by 2035. And so my ask to you is, how can we really motivate and action change to support our journey? We'll just go with all the puns up this mountain. How do we do it?
Yeah, I love it. First of all, I love this challenge. It's funny, 50-50 is what we're going for. Let's let that sink in. We're looking for 50-50. Oh my goodness, what year is it? You think it would be more like getting it to 70 or 80. But anyway, I get it. And I think it's a really great goal, and we should try to get there. I also love that you did kind of put this as a journey on the mountain. So I can maybe tie in a couple parallels with, mountains, so we can all simplify this. But one, I think organizations need to have a clear plan. No one gets on the mountain without a map. The companies need to create a plan, track real progress, and not just talk about the change. There's a lot of lip service out there. And then also be sure you know how to measure it. So that's, if you're being successful or not. Another one is remove roadblocks. If there is a fallen tree on the trail, you don't tell guests to go figure it out. You clear the path. Women don't need fixing. The system does.
Yeah.
Give real opportunities. If a gate is blocking the trail and it doesn't matter how hard someone trains, they can't move forward. We need to open doors, not just offer advice. Another one, make work-life balance normal. No one hikes without stopping for water. Flexibility at work should be standard, not a special request. We shouldn't have to feel it's a special request to go pick up the kids or to go to the dentist or to take a break. Hike together. The best hikes aren't solo. When men and women support each other, everyone reaches to the top faster. And make sure you're checking the progress. If you don't check how far you've gone or what you've been doing, you might be lost. You may not even know what's going on, and you've lost the purpose altogether. Companies must measure results and keep pushing forward. Those are some of the things that I think would help, and encourage your teams to do this, and encourage men and women to feel comfortable through these basically cultural changes.
Thank you. What a wonderful way to end the podcast. Katie, thank you so much for your time today. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I am so honored. I have to tell you, I have chills. This is such an amazing organization, and I love the travel network idea. This industry has the coolest people, and especially within the women, we all look out for each other, and it's just so powerful. So thank you for including me.
Thank you again. You have been listening to The Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. For more information about GBTA and its work, visit gbta.org and be sure to rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.